So a common question I get is how do you manage having multiple AWS accounts? So for example, right now we are in my AWS directory. And so if we go to config, we see there's the default section. And then if we go to credentials, there's also the default section, which contains an AWS access key ID and a secret access key. So how do we do, because this links to my one AWS account that I have from before, but how do we do this if I have multiple AWS accounts? For this, we'll use something called a profile. And so profiles are quite special to use. Basically, what we have to do is define a name for a new profile, configure it, and then we'll be able to use it into any command line. So the way we do it is we type AWS configure, and this was from before. As you can see, it prompts me for the access key ID that we have right here, and if I do enter, it's going to prompt me for the secret access key that we have right here. So all fine, I'll just press enter to show you. So now we'll change that. We'll do AWS configure -- profile. And what this does is that we're saying, okay, we're going to select the profile we want to do. And so for this, we have to name the profile. I'll call it my other AWS accounts. But you can name it whatever you want, and usually something a little bit shorter. Now, as you can see, the AWS access key ID is now none. It used to be something, now it's none. So that means that this is an entirely new, different account. So how about I just generate something very quickly? So I'll just copy a random thing. So for my access key ID, I'll copy this. And my secret access key, again, this is something you would basically obtain on a real AWS account, the way we've done it from before. But right now I'm just pasting some dummy data. Here we go. It starts with a D and it starts with an H. I press enter. And maybe for the region name, I want to do stuff in US West 2. Who knows? The default output format, I'll press enter again. Here we go. We have configured another profile. So what did change now? Well, if we go to the credentials file, now we can see that there is a new bracket. So before there was just default, but now there's my other AWS accounts, which contains a new set of credentials. Similarly, if we go to config, we now see that for the profile my other AWS accounts, here is the region we're going to use. And so this is something that's quite cool because now we can switch between different accounts. Now, if you do AWS S3 LS, this is going to execute against the default profile, okay? Because this is how we configured it. But if we want to execute this function against another profile, say my other AWS account that we just configured, we have to add -- profile and the name of the profile we have. So it's just a little trick you should know about, but basically for any command, you can use -- profile and set the profile name you want, as long as you've configured that profile beforehand using the AWS configure command line. So that's it. It's not something you should know for the exam, but it's something you should know as a developer, and I like to give you real world tips. So if you start having multiple AWS accounts, make sure to use profiles and to set your command line to use the -- profile command line argument to target the right AWS accounts.